Welcome to this month's episode of Relaunch My Life Radio, available on iTunes, Spotify, and now YouTube. In this month's episode, I am going to be sharing an update from my life in the dream section. In the life section, I share tools or tips to help you to get clarity and perspective in your life. And in the diary section of the Dream Life Diary, I share 3 journaling prompts to help you get clarity to move forward for the month ahead. So in this month's episode, I have decided to share a little bit of a behind the scenes into something that I have been exploring over the last, say, 12 months. And that is the world of plant medicine and specifically ayahuasca. It's a kind of full circle moment, really, because depending on how long you've been listening to my podcast, one of the very first interviews I ever did was with Jeffrey Slater, asking him everything and anything about ayahuasca, because at the time, I was a little bit afraid of it. To be honest, I'd heard some pretty strange things like it makes you lose bowel control and you sit in a room full of people throwing up. And I wondered, why would anyone ever do this? And so now being on the other side of that journey, I wanted to share a little bit behind the veil. But I also, I suppose, with a duty of care, with my perspective being in the personal development industry for over a decade now, and specifically teaching courses in NLP, mindset, and hypnotherapy, I suppose I want to share some of the benefits of the work that I do and have done over the years and how I really feel that that supported me on my journey and also with the after experience integration, because honestly, it could be an experience that completely rattles someone's model of the world. And so I think it's really important to go into these things intentionally. And I'm going to share some of my ideas around that later in the episode. But before I dive into that, I'd love to share with you a little update in what's been happening in my world. So first of all, last month was a jam-packed month for me. I was fortunate to be able to run my annual writers retreat here in Kings Beach in South Australia. And it is a 3-night writing retreat that I hold, really supporting entrepreneurs, coaches, and creatives to create their own best-selling books. As you'll know, I have published and self-published 2 best-selling books now. I've also helped over 10 authors to self-publish inside my Birth Your Book program. And so the writing retreat is really complementary to my book writing course. And it is such a labor of love. It's such a passion project of mine. And honestly, there is nothing I love more than helping people be able to birth their own books, because it's so often so much more than about the book. It's a symbol of either the message, the intention. For some people, it's a symbol of them finally finishing something because they've never finished things before in their life. Whatever it is, the book is so much more than just a book. And I really believe it opens so many doors. It builds credibility in your industry. And it is something that I really believe everyone can do. And I love to make that pathway easier for people as well. So the retreat was just beyond expectations. Obviously, it is in a jaw-dropping location. And I really love creating that homely, nurturing environment with writing workshops and massages and yoga, and really a place for creatives to fill their cup and be inspired to write what it is that's on their heart and mind. So that went so well. And the following week, Paul and I spent a week graduating the second component of our annual Master Practitioner training as well. And we graduated that training about a week ago. It was incredible. Honestly, seeing all of the students complete their full day breakthrough coaching sessions with each other, it is just so phenomenal to see humans who have gone from maybe starting off, stepping into our NLP practitioner training, feeling lack of self-confidence and not really even sure why they're doing the course, to weeks and months after doing this training and really tapping into a deeper sense of understanding, but also confidence in themselves. Because I think if you can work through something in your life, that's one level of transformation. But if you can help someone shift through something in their life, that not only is a whole other level of transformation, but it further deeper embeds your own personal transformation as well. So that training just went so well. It is a phenomenal training, a deep dive into values. We've added shadow work into it. We do all sorts of advanced master of NLP techniques. And I'm so proud that that training went so smoothly, as it always does, because I'm fortunate enough to be able to teach these courses with my beautiful partner in life, Paul. And we really do just have the most beautiful students in our community, which is a blessing that I never take for granted every single day. Next week, actually, we are starting our hypnotherapy practitioner training. And then at the end of this month, we have our final NLP practitioner training happening. It's the 30th of September to the 6th of October. It is an in-person and online hybrid. So if you have been on the fence, if you are feeling like, I really need to sort my shit out, or I really want to level myself up, imagine spending 7 days with us, helping you unravel your blueprint, your beliefs, your habits, and basically create more certainty, clarity, and confidence for you to step into your future. Honestly, I think it's a training that every human should do because it teaches you how to understand yourself, your mind, your emotions at such a deeper level. It's really like practical coaching and psychology tools to be able to help you to create a different future for yourself. So there are details below in the show notes as well. I'm just really passionate about helping as many people get to this training because it is actually so exciting. We are taking some time off. It is Paul's 40th in October, and we have for the first time, we don't have any courses now from November until May, and we haven't done that since we've met. So we've been together nearly 10 years and we've never had that length of time off courses. So it's actually kind of amazing for us, but that's why we're trying to make sure that we encourage as many people to get into these courses while they possibly can. So moving into this episode, I've noticed a trend in the last couple of years, I would say after COVID, that people are a lot more open-minded to spiritual experiences than perhaps they might have been in the past. Look at the rise of course, meditation, but breath work, experiences. I'm going to talk a little bit about things like mushrooms, even people like podcasters like Joe Rogan talking about it becoming more mainstream. People are opening up to things like microdosing and just exploring and expanding their world of possibilities. And so I've seen a lot of people expand into plant medicine and dive into things like what I'm going to talk about, ayahuasca. And I always remember when I interviewed Jeffrey Slater all the way back in 2016 on my first few episodes of my podcast, I said to him, you know, if people are just going into ayahuasca to go with the masses or go with this trend, isn't that a concern? And Jeffrey replied to me, the medicine will sort that out. And what I love about it is you can't do something that you're not ready for. You know, by the very nature of you being in the receptive energy and being able to say, yes, this is a yes for me, then it means that consciously or unconsciously we're ready for it. So I love remembering that. And so I suppose I want to pre-frame, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I am literally just sharing my experience. I also do want to pre-frame that it's actually not legal in Australia. So please make sure you do your research. But I do want to just share like what the experience was like for me so that you can get a bit of a window into that and a bit of a first person experience. But again, as with anything in life, we're all going to have our own unique experiences. And I think the highest form of ignorance is judging something that we have no direct experience of. So explore things with an open heart and open mind. And I would wholeheartedly recommend, the first thing I would suggest before you start diving into things like plant medicine and, you know, any kind of drug, is to do deep inner work. I personally feel like none of this stuff scares me because I'm not afraid of myself. And some people go into these experiences and they're afraid. And what that says to me is they don't know themselves, because how can you be afraid of your own subconscious, your own unconscious mind, if you've created it to be a safe place? And that is honestly what hypnotherapy and NLP allowed me to do. It allowed me to feel so comfortable and confident and safe in myself that I know that no matter what happens, I've got myself, even in those kind of experiences, which can be quite world altering, if I can say that. So I'm going to share a little bit, first of all, about what ayahuasca is. Well, it is a sacred Amazonian brew of vines and leaves of a plant that is traditionally drunk in sacred ceremonies. It's believed to be capable of expanding one's consciousness, and some individuals experience extreme alterations of reality, such as mixed sensory experiences where you perceive that you can see sounds or hear color. Some studies also suggest that the use of the drug can increase the number of serotonin receptors in the central nervous system. How did I know it was time to sit with the medicine? I have worked on myself, I would say, for the last decade. I have explored all kinds of modalities. I've been teaching NLP and hypnotherapy. I've been walking my walk, talking my talk, exploring myself. I worked with psychologists. I worked with counselors. I worked with therapists. I have done so much inner work. And for me, I'm a really curious person. I'm a seeker, and I signed up for this life experience to have the maximum number of experiences I can possibly have in this world. And so I've previously sat with a different plant medicine called Cambo, and I shared that on my podcast many years ago. And that was really beautiful. It was very profound. I've obviously also tried magic mushrooms and had some really beautiful expanding experiences with that. And so I knew that it was not a matter of if I was ever going to sit with ayahuasca, but when, and waiting for the right moment. And so it was about 12 months ago that I had a conversation with a friend who had recently sat with the medicine. And as she spoke, my whole nervous system opened up. My whole body was just giving me a complete sense of calm about the idea. And it was the first time that I'd ever felt calm about the idea. Before that, I'd always had, a little bit of blocks, a little bit of judgments, or even just a feeling of it's not the right time for me to do that. And after I'd met with this particular friend, I just kept receiving these taps on my shoulder, kind of energetically. And these taps on my shoulder just kept saying, ask about the ayahuasca, ask about the ayahuasca. After I had taken the first dose of the medicine, I lay down and I started actually having a conversation with the medicine. Now, whether it was a conversation with the medicine or whether it was a conversation with my own unconscious mind, it doesn't matter. It was a metaphor for me to be able to get the transformation that I needed. And so when I refer in this podcast about connecting to the medicine, I also mean connecting to the part of myself that was opened and awakened as a result of taking it. The real first ceremony, the sitting that I did, the first lot was 2 days, and then I've since done 3-day ceremony. So the first ceremony that I did, basically I spent the entire time, it was about 3 or 4 hours, learning how to get out of my head and into my body. And you're given a first dose, and then if you need more, you are offered a second dose about 45 minutes later. And I asked myself and the medicine if I needed to have a second dose, and I was told wisely, you need to learn how to get out of your own head. The medicine cannot teach you how to do that. And so I spent this time just getting out of my head and into my body, getting out of my head and into my body, getting out of my head and into my body. And that was my first lesson. The second ceremony, I was given the nudge to take 2 doses. And I spent the entire ceremony in what I could say is one of the most expanded consciousness experiences that I have had in my life to date. So much so, I had realization after realization. It was like 4 or 5 hours of opening unopened tabs and filing them in places that I didn't know I needed to file them. There were layers and layers of truth. I spent half an hour experiencing what it felt like in my nervous system to be a spider spinning a web and feeling how ecstatic it felt to let that web be spun from my body as a spider, which makes no logical sense to a human. But the experience that I think ayahuasca and the experience opened me up to was being able to feel so much more in that moment. I found it really fascinating that I could be lucid enough to go to the bathroom and then lay back down and put my eye mask on and continue on with the journey. I also was able to write so much. So I would take my eye mask off and I would journal and I would take downloads and I would share, insights that I was getting. And that became a really important part of my journey. And it was in the second ceremony that I had an experience that really shaped and changed the way that I perceive everything now. I felt my spirit, if I can explain it in that way, float above my body. And I spent time actually watching my physical body age and die. And so I watched this physical body that is Juliet, this meat suit, age and turn into an old woman and wither and then die and then become dirt and maggots and disintegrate, basically. And I felt viscerally the freedom of that. And watching yourself die is one of the most freeing experiences I believe any of us can have. And I felt almost like in that moment, all fear leave my body. And that was profound for me. I can remember after that experience, I went to the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror and I just looked at this physical body and I laughed and I just said, "You're going to rot and die." And it was the funniest realization because I think we get so attached to our physical form. And they say that ayahuasca helps people have what's called like an ego death. And that for me was the first real physical experience. I've had meditations where I've had conscious, logical realizations. I've had breathwork experiences where I've had a lot of connections, but this was like an undeniable, there is no death. And I felt what it felt like to connect and return back into the collective consciousness as a spirit. And that felt so incredible. So it might sound batshit crazy, but that was the experience I had in my second ceremony. I have had a lot of other experiences. I've now since sat with the medicine another 3 times after those first 2. And I have had a lot of personal realizations. I think, and I don't want to sound full of myself here, but I think because of the level of the awareness that I have, I get a lot of symbols. I get a lot of realizations. I can process things. I can get the symbology of the mother-father personas in things. I get how everything is a reflection of my subconscious. And so there have been a lot of learnings and a lot of realizations, but I could not understand what the experience would be like if it were one of my first steps. I think the fact that I don't carry a lot of trauma in my body because I have spent a decade now releasing things like fear and guilt and anger, like I travel quite light. So that allowed my soul to sort of travel quite light in the journey. So my suggestion, and I've had a lot of people ask, my suggestion would be is if you're going to explore this stuff, have someone help you release things as much as you can, because of course the medicine is going to show you truth and it's going to show you your blind spots and it's going to show you things you still need to release. And this is really funny because I use my ability to guide, say, hypnosis symbolic journeys throughout the ayahuasca journey. And this was profound because I found I could really communicate with myself and the medicine at such a deeper level. So I would ask it, okay, show me the truth of this or show me that. And then I would get things and I would be taken on journeys where it would show me deeper levels of layers of truth to the illusion that I held in my mind. And I've had people that I've met in ceremonies say, "Oh, I'm jealous of you. I've never had an experience like that. And you had that on your second sitting." And the only thing I can say is I've got a lot of kind of tools inbuilt in my mind that help me to be able to process those things as well. But there is always a deep level of surrender when you go into a situation like this. Like when you drink the medicine, you don't know what's going to happen on the other side. So the question on everyone's lips, did I purge? Did I shit my pants? Did I vomit? What happens? That's what everyone's afraid of, right? And what I realized is that's the ego. People who don't want to sit with ayahuasca because they're afraid of shitting themselves or vomiting, it's almost like that's your first barrier to entry. Your ego is not going to let you go there. And if you did take the medicine and you're afraid of that, you're probably going to block the medicine. And that's where a lot of people just get headaches and they don't get the journey because they're not allowing their ego to surrender. There's a moment where you take it, where you just go, whatever happens, I'm open. Whatever happens, I'm here for it, right? So on the second ceremony of the second time that I'd sat with the medicine, I was about to leave the ceremony hall. We'd had a 4 or 5 hour journey. I'd had a beautiful journey. I'd had ups and downs, lots of realizations. And I was about to leave the hall and I heard the medicine say to me, "You're not done yet." And I looked around and I said, "Well, what do I still need to do?" And the medicine said to me, or my subconscious mind said to me, "You need to purge. You need to have a physical experience of what you've released tonight." And so I went to the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror and I asked the medicine to help me. I said, "Okay, help me let this out. What do I need to release?" And it said, "You need to release doubt." And so I literally had the conscious, unconscious realization of, well, I need to release doubt. I vomited into the sink and it was me symbolically vomiting out doubt. And it felt so good. So sometimes holding on to it, that actually feels worse. And so, yes, I vomited. That's the only time that I have, but it felt great because once that symbolic purge of doubt was out, it was actually really profound. So I would say that if you do not have a deep sense of self-awareness and a clear model of the world and sense of the world, it could really shake you up because it shows you in all aspects. It shows you your dark and your light. And I do a lot of shadow work. We teach shadow work. So naturally, I do a lot of shadow work. And that is owning all aspects, the good and the bad, the dark and the light, the things you love about others, the things you hate about others. It's all parts of you. So I've done years and years of deep shadow work and teaching it as well. And I think that also prepared me to have the type of experience that I had. I know that everyone's experience with this sort of thing will be exactly what you need. And I really do believe the tools that we teach and the tools that I have supported me in being able to have that kind of experience as well. So what would my advice be for those of you interested in plant medicine is medicine will find you when you're ready. You will know. If you're still scared, you're probably not ready. The ego will protect you. So if you can, find a coach, we have master coaches at Evolve and Relaunch that actually also specialize in integration coaching and that support people before and after experiences like this. So I continue to live in a space of self-inquiry and self-reflection. This really keeps me going on and it allows me to have these kind of experiences. I obviously had my experience and it's been a really big, important part of my healing journey. But do you know what? You have those amazing spiritual journeys and then you have life and you come back to life. And I think sometimes people can get a little bit addicted to the highs of such a profound spiritual journey. But the one thing I would say to you is it's only ever showing you. It's not ayahuasca. Ayahuasca unlocks parts of you. And that's really what I would say is I see a lot of people who almost get addicted to substances. They get addicted to feeling certain ways, and that can be useful until it's not. You also, life is ups and downs. Life is challenges. Life is the dark and the light, all of those things, as I share in this podcast. So I do see people saying, I just want to have another journey. I just want to go back there. I want to have those experiences. But I think everything in life can be a spiritual experience, even the mundane, even the day-to-day, even the dishes, even the moments when things don't go quote unquote our way. And so I think that's just as much an experience, but it's definitely been an interesting experience and an opportunity for me to deepen my spiritual side as well. But I do think it's vital to have done a deep dive beforehand and make sure that you do your research and find the right place for you so that you feel really safe and supported. I want to share with you a few journaling prompts for you for this month in the diary section. And then I'm going to finish off really, really sweet little story about how I came to book a week on my own in Paris to write and work on my next book. So first of all, my journaling prompts for you. So number one, what fears do you have about your future? Sometimes the fears of the unknown are eradicated simply by articulating them. So what fears do you have about your future? Then, what are you worried about right now? And if you haven't done our Overcoming Overwhelm training, I will put a link in the show notes for you to do that. It's a free training valued at $500 that walks you through how to get out of overwhelm. And it also steps you through clearing out things that you're feeling worried about. And then number three, what does your heart know about these two things? So the first two questions that you've answered, what does your heart actually know about these two things? I have studied a lot of things about the intelligence of the heart. It's actually another brain that we have. Your heart and the wisdom of your heart, it knows so much more than your brain. Often your brain will catastrophize. It will think about all of the worst case scenarios. But the moment you drop down into your heart, everything gets calm, everything gets clear, everything gets much wiser. So connect to your heart. And if you have read my book, Relaunch My Life, you probably know the connect to your heart process. That is one that I still practice every single day. It's so simple, but it's so profound. And so a little quick, sweet story. A lot of you know Paul, my partner in business and life, and I had the fortunate opportunity to join a really beautiful 2-week spiritual pilgrimage through the south of Egypt later this year. It is 15 nights going from the south of Egypt, traveling up the Nile all the way up to Luxor, and it will go to sacred sites. We will do spiritual activations. It is a real opportunity to connect with the land. And Egypt has been somewhere that's been on my bucket list for such a long time, but I did not want to go and do a touristy experience. I wanted to have, as you would be aware, like I love exploring things more spiritually. I wanted to have a deep, profound, personal journey. And so I'm going for 2 weeks to Egypt, and I was booking my flights, and I was on the phone to Paul, and I said to him, I could come straight home, but I feel like it's going to be a lot to integrate. And my beautiful man said to me on the other end of the phone, well, you've been wanting to go to France to work on your book for such a long time. Why don't you book yourself a week in Paris and you can just write and integrate and have some time on your own to let it all settle? And I literally nearly cried because over 10 years ago, my life was so different. And I could not imagine that I now have a life where I get to go to Egypt on my own and do a spiritual pilgrimage, but that I have a partner in my life that loves me so much that he actually reminds me to love myself. He reminds me to give to myself, and he supports me and encourages me and actually suggests things to me that sometimes I don't allow myself to do. And we do that sometimes, don't we? We deny ourselves without even realizing that we've done it. And so the moment he said it, my whole being just lit up because I realized I can do that. I just hadn't given myself the permission to do that. So I am so fortunate. I'm going to have about a month away in November, and I'm looking forward to sharing the journey through Egypt and Paris and launching my new book in the new year. And I have just loved sharing this insight. I hope this has been interesting for you and a little bit of a different format. Normally, I do share a lot more tools and tips for you in the month, but if you want a whole week full of tools, come along to our NLP training. It is the end of this month. We would love to see you there. It's our last training until May next year, so it's a perfect time to get in before the end of 2024. I want to just take an opportunity to say a big thank you for your support, for being a part of this, for tuning in, for liking, for subscribing, for sharing this episode. If there's someone that's curious about plant medicine or NLP or hypnotherapy or anything like that, share this episode with them. And if you could give this episode a little like or a thumbs up, that would mean the world to me. It will help more people find it. But as always, I just like to keep things real. I like to keep things pretty balanced. And I've been fortunate to be in this kind of work for nearly 10 years now. And the one thing that I am constantly is humbled by the humans that come into our courses that are willing to look into the darkness and all they find is light, that are willing to be vulnerable, that are willing to share, that are willing to grow, that are willing to say, I want to be a better version of myself. I'm literally inspired every single day by the hundreds, if not now thousands of people in our community that we have served over the years. And to be able to do it with my partner by my side, I'm in awe every single day of this man who is one of the most brilliant male therapists I've ever met. And yet in the same instance, tells the corniest, cheesiest dad jokes and just keeps things really balanced and real. So thank you. Thank you for being part of our community. If you are new to my podcast or YouTube channel, thank you for tuning in, and please click that subscribe button so that you find out about future episodes. I am just wishing you so much love and respect for wherever you are in your personal development journey. And hopefully this has planted a few seeds of insight or inspiration for you. And I will share some links to resources in the show notes below. Have a great month ahead, and I can't wait to update you on how the training has gone next month. And I'll be sure to update you on my travels in the next couple of months as well.